Hey everyone, I'm Mike, and today we're going to talk about my 5 tips on how to make your headshot sessions better, more profitable, and easier in post. Headshot sessions or headshot days are some of my most profitable projects, and they range anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000. And basically a company hires me to come out, they'll line up 10, 15 employees, and then over the course of a lunch break or a couple of hours, we will shoot through all of their headshots. And it may seem daunting, but these are great ways to launch your business and get tons of repeat clients. And I've got 5 tips that will make it so much easier, and it will save you a lot of time in post. Plus, stick around because the last tip is the one that saves me the most time. Tip number 1, put your backdrop on a CStand. Put your backdrop on a CStand instead of a backdrop stand, because a backdrop stand has a very large footprint. And a lot of times when you go to these businesses, they don't have a ton of extra space for you to set up. So using a CStand has a lot smaller footprint. And then also it allows you to raise and lower it based on each subject. So it doesn't matter if you have a taller person or a shorter person, you don't have to invest in a massive canvas backdrop. You can just have a small 3 foot by 5 foot. Then you can just raise and lower it depending on the height of your subject. Tip number 2, use as big of a modifier as possible for your key light. When you use a large modifier, it already is a softer, more flattering light. In this particular case, I used a 42-inch beauty dish, but typically I try to use a 5-foot octabox. For me, there wasn't a lot of space in this kind of cramped scenario, and so I ended up using the smaller beauty dish. But what it allows me to do is, when I have the largest modifier, I don't have to raise it up and down to dodge that hot spot in the center. And then also, getting it really large also allows it to be really soft and flattering no matter who you're photographing, because you may have someone who's young that comes in and it's really flattering on their skin, but then you may be photographing older people in the same session, and having that nice soft light makes each one of them look as attractive as they are in person. Tip number 3, use an easy visible marker for your subjects. The first thing they're gonna say when they walk in the room is, "Where do you want me? What do I do?" And so if you have a clear marker as to where they're gonna stand, you don't have to finagle with your lights, because every person's gonna be right in the most appropriate lighting that's gonna look the best on them. So it brings them a little bit of comfort because they know exactly what to do, and then you don't have to fool with your lights as much if they're closer to the backdrop or further away. Tip number 4, bring clamps for clothes. This seems like a simple one, but I promise you it will save you a ton of time in post, because people will come in and they'll either be wearing clothes that are too big for them, or they're wearing maybe a blouse that's quite flowing, and you want to be able to show off the angles in the arm or add space in between the body and the arm. And sometimes just making those clothes a little more form-fitting helps out, and it saves you a ton of time in post where you don't have to liquefy. Tip number 5, and this is my favorite, let them select their images there. Some people will feel like this is a little taboo because you don't want everybody to see unedited images. But if you get your lighting right and you're confident in it, it's good to let them pick the images there. 1, because you're not culling. There's no culling required. If they know they get 2 images, they can flip through, pick the images that they want, and then you're not spending time editing photographs that they don't like of themselves. Because typically, as a photographer, we may look at it and go, "Man, I killed the lighting on this. This looks great," or "Wow, look at the drama here." But if they don't like the image, then it's a waste of time because they need to be able to use the headshots. So allowing them to pick the images, 1, gets rid of the culling, and then 2, on top of that, it allows you not to spend time editing photographs that they might not find as flattering for themselves. So there you have it. Those are the 5 tips that I use to make these headshot days easier and more profitable for me, because I spend less time, therefore I make more money. Let me just recap for you real quick. Tip number 1, you put your backdrop on a CStand so you can rise it up and down depending on what your subject's height is. Tip number 2 is use as big of a modifier as possible, because that way you're finagling with it less and it's going to be the most flattering light. Tip number 3, set an easy visible marker so that they know where to stand and you don't have to move any of your settings. Tip number 4, be sure to have those clamps so that you can make the clothing more form-fitting and more flattering on their body. And then my favorite, tip number 5, go ahead and let them cull the images for you. They select their favorites, then you're only editing the ones that they love. So in the comments, let me know, did you like these? Do you think they'll be helpful? Tell me your favorite one, but also if I missed something or you've got something that's gonna help me out, please let me know too. I'd love for us to grow together as a community. I really appreciate you checking out this video. Thanks.
That was good.